this little press engagement I've called, inviting every section of the Guyana media to join so we can chat and answer questions relating to some developments of national importance. Gold smuggling, the Mohammeds, myself, I'm GHK Lall. Again, welcome and thank you for coming. Let me set your expectations from now. There will be no personal references. I plan on speaking in the broad terms of the government, the leadership. Every member of the press has been invited, including the government media. The format will be, I will give a brief intro, a couple of minutes to lay the groundwork, and then most of this gathering will be about questions. The questions that you have, the questions that you feel are necessary to ask. I should tell our listeners and viewers that no question was prearranged, no conversation was had in relation to those questions. I don't know what is going to be asked. I will try my best to answer all of them the best way that I can do so, clearly, frankly, on the table. There may be a question or two that has something to do with court proceedings that are in motion, and so I may ask to be excused or just to say the minimum of that. Gold smuggling, Guyana Gold Board, Guyana Regulatory Authority, the Mohammeds. Let's look at the sequence of events here. On June 11, 2024, the United States Department of the Treasury, Office of Foreign Assets Control, announced some sanctions involving 3 Guyanese citizens. The Mohammeds are the Permanent Secretary by the name of May Thomas. You know that. And there was repeated reference, there were repeated references to government officials quite a few times. Sanctions relating to gold smuggling, tax evasion, and so forth. If I recall well, no government entity was specifically mentioned in those sanctions, but government officials were. 2 Mondays ago, October 6th, from the US Federal Court in Florida, there were indictments of 2 persons, Mr. Nazar Mohamed and Mr. Ashley Mohamed. 11 charges: gold smuggling, mail fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. There were no other names mentioned in those indictments. 11 charges. Yet somehow, accusations have been leveled against me by name, GHK Lall, that I have helped the Mohammeds to smuggle gold. An allegation that I take at the height of offensiveness, and which I am seeking relief through the courts. That is in motion, as I said earlier. Now, in addition to that, government officials, one in particular, has singled me out for special mention, despite the fact that the indictments cover, or perhaps because of the fact from 2017 to 2024, GHK Lall, and that the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Regulatory Authority customs officials must conduct a thorough, full-fledged investigation. including, I absolutely agree with that. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, my fellow Diamonds, I absolutely agree with the full-fledged, thorough investigation of what went on with this gold smuggling business and all the related charges. I absolutely welcome an investigation of myself. But I will not stop at the Guyana Police Force. I would also encourage the government for us to have the best and thorough and credible investigation by inviting the FBI of America to participate in that investigation. The fact that my name is mentioned out of all these government officials is objectionable to me, and seriously so, because it prejudices my rights, in my opinion, but this is more than a test of myself. This is more than a test of myself. This is a trial of democracy in Guyana. It's a trial of the Guyana Police Force and what kind of police force it will be in this investigation. A professional one or a political one? I am sure that Commissioner Hicken, Deputy Commissioner Franchi, Wendell Dunham, Deputy Commissioner and Head of SOCO, Mr. Faisal, I hope I have that right, Karabach, and the Head of Special Branch, Senior Superintendent Frank Ryan, will do their best to get to the bottom of who's involved here. This web of gold smugglers, taxi dealers, aiders and abettors, conspirators, and so on and so forth. I am asking myself, and I'm telling the guidance public, from the moment my name gets singled out and mentioned, that now amounts in my book to political persecution, political inquisition, and political oppression. I'm not moving from that. I welcome an investigation, include the FBI. And most of what I say this morning will be based on the 17 pages, straight out of the U.S. Federal Court indictment. It's here, you can take a look at it. I've made some notes for myself. And that's what this conversation is going to be based on. Gold smuggling, was it? It just started as soon as I went there in 2017. It didn't, because if you remember well, there was the Curacao gold matter in 2012. I wasn't even fully here yet in this country. Doesn't mean anything in this age of technology. The first time I went to Mohamed's, or anybody related to gold for that matter, was in 2017 March when I went there. And when I left there in February 29th, 2020, just before the elections. I'm going to take a quick moment to outline for you, sketch for you, how gold export works. You say you have gold export and you're a licensed gold dealer. You inform the dealer exporter, inform the Guyana Gold Board, and the operations senior folks review your documents and arrange with GRA Customs, the Guyana Police Narcotics Unit, and PANU to go to the dealer's premises, inspect, weigh, seal off, and sign, and the exporter takes it from there. From the indictment, the US officials are saying that the boxes and the seals used in the legitimate export, what passed through the Guyana Gold Board, are then being reused by the alleged gold smugglers from Miami to Dubai and back. Now you tell me, where is the Guyana Gold Board when those instances of gold smuggling is happening? Where's GHK Lall in that? Gold smuggling is not something that you broadcast to people. The network is the smallest it can be, and it's a trusted circle. I have my troubles with the Mohammeds among others at the gold. When I say troubles, they didn't like the regulations, but because it applied to the state, the Ghana Gold Board itself and its exploitation, it applied to every dealer, every exporter. Now, as we go into your questions, this document here will speak to itself. Government officials, I will define, ladies and gentlemen, and to the Ghana public, and whoever else is listening, does not include public servants alone. I repeat that for everybody. Government officials, in my definition, and I think that's a standard definition, should not, would not, and cannot include public servants alone, whether it's me or 1,000 others. It's got to include from junior minister to senior minister to chief ministers of this country. I don't see how they can be excluded, including those who are making allegations left, right, and center, and there are people who are doing so. So, we are starting off on, in this way, we're going to investigate the PMC and the EPP, and yeah, that's great. But it's got to include not just public servants, but the political orchestrators and possible intellectual authors here. We know the story of the Lamborghini. We have a Lamborghini in this country. We know who it was alleged was involved. Why would they need me for gold smuggling? And if you can be so arrogant and so bold-faced as to do that in public with something as visible and as conspicuous as a Lamborghini with the taxes, what are you going to do with gold smuggling, which is on the cover of dark and in the shadows? This is where all of this revolves. And I hope that the commission making, Lanham, Karen Batch, and the FBI conduct the full-fledged investigation that has been called for. There are some instances and dates in here of mail fraud and wire fraud that I'll be talking about as your questions come. This, to remind everybody, is the U.S. indictment from U.S. federal court. 11 charges. And it's very, very specific, and it's very revealing. So, I'm going to stop talking now, but understand that I'm going to be referring to this document. So, it gives a picture of where I was or wasn't, and who was there, and what they should have known and done. I thank you for listening. I ask you no further questions. Good morning, please.
Good morning, Mr. Lall. Khadija Ba from Stabroek News. During your tenure at Guyana Gold Board, what reports did you receive about the extent of gold smuggling and what steps did you take?
We heard about smuggling from different sources. We heard a bit word of mouth in the yard. We heard about it from operations conducted by the government. And what was heard was that there is smuggling going on. But as to the specifics of persons, groups that could have possibly been engaged in that crime, there wasn't much more coming to us about that. Intuitively, we had a sense that this is not all the gold that is coming here. It can't be the gold. And there is a leakage somewhere. When I went into the gold board, this was the information that came to me. But could we have said that Mr. A or dealer B is responsible for this, is engaged in this? That information was not coming to us. And really, gold smuggling, we're aware of something with specifics. We have a duty to go to the Ghana police force. This is a law enforcement matter at that time. The Gold Board Act is very clear as to what our lines of demarcation are, the extent of our responsibility. It would be improper for us to sit down on gold smuggling intelligence and not share that. The fact of the matter is that gold smuggling intelligence really trickled down to us specifics of it. Mr. Chase?
Thanks. What can you tell us about Operation Neighbor New?
Operation Neighbor New was initiated under my President Ranger, and it was spearheaded by, I think he's retired Brigadier General Bruce Lloyd. And he shared some intelligence with us in terms that there is leakage going on. There are connections cross-border. But in terms of the identification, everybody had an opinion of that, of whether it's the A or B or C, gold dealer, but beyond that, it never got the meat of who is responsible for this kind of gold leakage, this kind of gold smuggling. That never came down to the, in terms of our intelligence. For example, we would then have a responsibility as the board of directors, of which I was the chair, to not only engage upwards with the minister, but of course with the Guyana Police Force and say, this is what we have, and we would think that this is what something should be done here. It would be irresponsible not to share that specifics of that intelligence. And I think because of the way we are structured in this country, that intelligence will go high or we, and to the proper authorities in Guyana to chase down, to follow up.
Sorry, one more follow-up. It's my last question.
No, please, you go ahead. I don't hear to answer questions.
Okay. In the indictment, in the list of indictments in the document there, it mentions a seizure of a shipment of gold in Miami. It mentions, I think it's on the last page. Should a shipment of gold have been seized in Miami, should there have been a formal notification to the Gold Board? Is the exporter bound to report to the Gold Board that the shipment has been detained? And finally, does the Gold Board follow up to ensure that shipments have been recorded at their intended ports of entry?
What page are you looking at?
It's the last page under the list of the indictments.
Does it say forfeiture allegations? And it has a heading?
Yeah.
Could you show me, please? Can I read this last paragraph? Page 13 of the indictment, paragraph 4 on the forfeiture allegations. Property directly subject to forfeiture as a result of the alleged offences includes, but is not limited to the following: shipment containing approximately 500 million gold bars as shipped from Guyana by Mohamed enterprise seized at Miami International Airport on June 11, 2024. That question, and repeat your question to me on that.
If a shipment of gold from here is seized in Miami, is there a formal notification to the Gold Board?
Well, I'll tell you, this is June 11, 2024, a year, several months ago. I really can't say what was shared with the Gold Board, but I am thinking, and you folks are in the media, that when this indictment came up, it was the first time that we heard about this shipment being this seizure. Do I have that right, folks? I should be asking the questions here. But the first time we heard about a shipment being seized, valued at $5.3 million on the day of the sanctions itself, June 11, 2024. That was the first time I heard about it, when this document came out on October 6th.
I think what she's asking, if should that have happened under GHK Lall's chairmanship, would the gold board be notified by any country wherever the gold is seized?
Well, it depends. You're talking 4.5 years later, Mr. Chase. And as much as I welcome the question, what other developments would have intervened between when I left on February 29th and June 11, 2024, that would have necessitated such a step by the U.S. government? Now remember, the grand jury deliberations in the U.S. are secret. So I do not think that this piece of intelligence, this development would have been shared with Guyana. Maybe the Attorney General's office, I just don't know. But understand this $5.3 million, I'm using not $4,000 an ounce, this is $1,600 approximately of gold, shipped from here, smuggled from here. Shipped from here infers that Guyana gold will pass through the auspices of Guyana gold. This is not so. This is part of the continuation of the alleged smuggling operations. Guyana gold is not aware of this. They may have been, but I can't attest to that. Would they have been under normal circumstances during my time? I don't think so. I don't think so, because you've got to keep these things so tight, you don't want anything to spill out, which will jeopardize the investigation in the United States.
So, Marshal, your source, just to clarify, sir, are you saying that during your tenure, when there were reports of alleged smuggling, that at no time did the names of the Mohamed service or any other gold dealer activate these allegations? And secondly, you reference to the procedure of how exploitation is done in regards to gold and the presence of entities such as GRA and Canada, etc. How is it that the seals were reused allegedly and that went undetected? Where the loophole exists?
I think that's a pretty direct question. This question deserves an answer. It's pretty straightforward. Were the names of the Mohammeds or any other put on the table during my time in relation to gold smuggling? What I can tell you is that there were suspicions of different players, major players involved in gold smuggling operation. We're not talking about 5 ounces and 10 ounces here, but beyond that, rumors, speculation, competition between rival dealers. We can go anywhere beyond that. So, directly to your question, the answer is no. No. The Mohammed's name, whenever it came up, or whomever that's named, it didn't reach to us. The second part of your question is, how would this have happened? You bring this shipment of gold, this is you don't recommend it to us. You give us this set of papers. You give us this set of papers which are part of your declaration. And the royalties and taxes are charged by the GGB and the GRA, whatever number of ounces it is. It's reviewed for the necessary detail, the field, the government, we, as again, there's a visit to the dealer premises, and all those actions that I said, inspecting, weighing, sealing the sidewalk occurs, and everybody leaves. So, the way that I understand that boxes are constructed is once they're open, they should be not usable again, and the seals, if broken, once it's open, will be broken. And therefore, for them to reuse the boxes and the seals, as alleged, it takes a lot of skill to do that, and it takes a lot of cooperation to do that. Remember that you've got gold to export legitimately, pursuant to the Gold War Act. You bring it to us. You are ready to pay the royalties and taxes. You bring it to us as the first step. We are the first line of information. Gold smuggling, the idea here is to avoid the royalty and taxes. So you're going to cut us out of it. But how do you get that tax with the appropriate stamps, whether it's customs or whoever, past the airport or other ports of exit in this country? We only have two as far as I know, GHK International and Eugene Correa Local. But of course you have the borders. And we know that, you've got the chicken smuggling, the rum smuggling there, so, and whatever else comes through the other borders. Is that possible? Well, certainly that's what the US government is saying. It's not possible to happen. And so, but if there's one thing I would agree with the Guyana government, is that you have some hands in this thing. And strangely, they're trying to stick my hands in here and rub my face there. And listen to this, page 7. Page 7 of this indictment. Not my document. Page 7 of this indictment. Wire fraud. October 5th, 2021. Electronic mail from the Mohamed in Guyana to a representative of Proxy 1 in Miami, requesting shipment of 6 boxes containing approximately 165 kilograms of gold through Miami to a buyer in Dubai. Right here, folks, you can take a picture of it if you already looked at this document. October 5th, 2021. I am gone from the Guyana Gold Board 1 year and 8 months. I was having a hell of a lot of influence in this country to be near something like that. November 9th, 2021. January 20, 2023. February 21, 2023. 3 years after I left the Gold Board, my name is being mentioned here, in no page, no paragraph of this indictment is there an instance of wire fraud, mail fraud, or allegations of gold smuggling between the years 2017 and 2020. So mean it didn't happen. It's just not here. It's just not here, folks. So you've got 1 year and 1 month, 2 years plus, when the new government took place. The same government that is looking to stick me in the middle of this, and it's happening on the day watch, and somehow my name is the most prominent one around here. I go further. Page 9 of the indictment. January 13th, 2021, I'm gone a year. December 28th, 2021, I'm gone almost 2 years. April 23rd, 2022, and June 10th, 2023. These are mail fraud instances now highlighted by the US government in this document. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4 from before, that's 8. That's 8 allegations. Shipment of 6 empty boxes containing GRA GPF sealed by Company 2 from Dubai to Miami. What is happening in Miami? What is going back here? And going back using boxes and seals. That's where a thorough investigation has to go and to drill down and reveal the guidance story what happened there. It's why I want an investigation. And why I want to hear for the third time I'm saying I would love to have the FBI involved in this. So you've got 8 counts there. And then the 9th count involves the shipment that was seized for US $5.3 million in June 11, 2024, a year and change ago, when the sanctions were first announced.
For you mentioned in the introduction that it would have been high to discretions to your lawyers as he and not in fact an apology and a compensation. You see, if you would have gotten a response or if they moved to the court.
So we're prepared to move to the court. I'll tell you that. That's already decided upon. And I want to tell you this, and I want to tell all Guyana this. I don't want, maybe I should say, but to take a penny from anybody who may be detained, that's how seriously and the reason I take of those who are making these allegations. And by the way, I am searching to see if there are more suits to be filed. Let that go out into the year. You should notice, Ms. Marshall, that I'm not speaking. I have a tendency, which I like to season my conversations with a little clearance. There's a reason for that. I am speaking in plain English, in English that is to be understood by my fellow Guyanese and by officials in America who are looking at this program as it is being right now. This is not just for Guyanese audience. I'm not talking about American officials on the street. I'm talking about American officials in official Washington. I take this seriously. The government may believe that, or people in the government may believe that it's playing games and this is politics. This is serious to me. This is that serious to me. So you are following about investigations and who else and whatever. Bring it on. Let's have it. Let's have the FBI. And we shall see who is snared in such an investigation.
Mr. Lall, sorry,
Here we go. Here.
the authority, sorry, just a follow-up. How notice in those documents mention his name of officials, government officials. We want to see those officials named in addition to Mohamed, those who have allegedly aided in this alleged case.
So I lost you in the first part. Government officials, what about their names? Please.
In the documents, you mentioned that government officials were named, not the government entity. Would you want to see those officials named publicly?
But there are two documents we're talking about here. The OFAC sanction document, which mentioned three names. One is a government official, one was a government official. From the Secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs, Ms. Thomas. The indictment that I have here, and you most likely have, has two names. Father and son, Mohamed. There's not any government official. The sanction document keeps repeating the broad generality of government officials, which, if you remember my definition, is it can't be public servants alone. Not something of this magnitude. Not when gold smuggling, when you're talking about, what's it again, 10,000 kilograms of gold smuggled between in and around 2017 all the way into 2024. I mean, and that's like terrorism. You catch a terrorist and you know you haven't caught all of them. So you seize 10,000 kilograms of gold, and there has to be a sense, at least I would think so, that perhaps you missed many more thousands of kilograms of gold coming out of Guyana illegally.
Ms. Lall, good morning. Trina Williams, Guyana Chronicle. You admitted earlier to hearing about gold smuggling allegations through word of mouth, and you explained the extent of your responsibility. But did you mention these claims, these accusations within your annual report? And the word of mouth, was it from outsiders or would it be your staff? Because if it was your staff, I'm sure you would have taken it very serious. And did you mention these gold smuggling allegations to the then Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman, at the time?
That's a good question, Miss, and I'm glad to see a member of the state media here. You have about 3 or 4 questions in there. The first thing was that if it's in our annual report, I do not think that it was in our annual report, but because the gold smuggling info that's coming to us, rumors, speculations, people's opinions, ideas about what is going on, and it has to go on. So there should be parts of the minutes of our monthly meetings that speaks to gold smuggling. That's one. So there's some documentation here. Relative to the minister, we had this conversation all the time. He's the one who was the second one that informed me of Operation Gold Digger. The first place I heard that was at the U.S. Embassy. Here I had, for the information of my fellow Guyanese, where I had frequent meetings with the then senior regional security officer, Joshua Keenan. So, and so there is awareness of that, and that was shared, and he knew about it, the then minister, that we have an environment where gold smuggling is happening, right? And he said, look, the government is doing ABC. The government is trying to get to the bottom of this. We need to get somebody to say something, to speak. But that's where it petered out. Or that's where I left it, or my involvement in it, my knowledge of it occurred. In terms of the staff, that's a mixed bag, Miss. Because what I found out when I arrived here, that quite a bit of the staff had what I shall call too much of a cozy relationship with members of the exporting community. And I say that without fear or hesitation. And some of them had to be got rid of, due process followed. And we don't know, I didn't know about the others who may have been involved at a line very, very low. So the staff was not going to bring back allegations or suspicions of that, given what their relationship with some of these exporters were. And you've got to understand something here. You're operating in a murky environment, gold smuggling. The less people who know who are in this circle, the better it is for the success of the operation. So that brings me back to, and I like that question. I really do. How does a stranger, total stranger outside like me, go to the Guyana board? When the minister Trotman called me, I was the most surprised guy in the world. Me? To do what? Anyhow, so there I was. And the dealers couldn't pick me up from the dealer community as a miner, as a businessman, as even a citizen living here in this country for too long. So they didn't know what to do with me. So it kind of baffles that the government has felt it's so moved, it's so driven to try to stick me into this thing. Why would these people trust me? A new kid in town. Here's another part that you need to know. I'm going to talk here. We've heard, you in the media know more than me, about unexplained wealth. I have no new wealth, folks. I have no new wealth. I've not had any new wealth for about 20 years now. So, I don't have it. And I would like an investigation to go there. No new house. No new cars, no fancy cars, no land, no business, despite the claims that I have. No big bank accounts, not even plural. So I'm putting all of this in front of the folks here and say, whatever I've got, look at this phone. Ever see a fancy phone like this? Huh? You won't be near to it. I think it's an iPod 12. What's the newest one now? 20 something? This is the 12. So I mean, I'm very good at doing what I do. I'm just a regular citizen going about his duty as and honest an investigation doesn't prove me wrong or right. And I don't fear any investigation. You fear investigation, members of the media and members of the public, and my fellow Americans, when you are living a double life, when you are living a secret life, when you are leading a secret criminal life. And I could look at any man in the eye and tell him, you didn't say that, and get ready for what follows next. Next question.
Mr. Lall, sir, would you say at the level of the Gold Board, what accounting system was placed for the use of the seals?
Go back and kind of do that.
I'm asking you what accounting system was put in place for the use of the seals that were used for the exportation of gold in boxes?
No, thank you, Mr. Stabroek. Once the seals are secured, and they're within, I think, even under the jurisdiction of the management, senior management, once that shipment is signed off on, and our guys go to at the dealer premises, there's a log of the number of the seal, 1, 2, 3, and it's in sequence, the number of the seal that is used. And once that seal is used there, it's gone. It's gone. It's like a baggage tag, but one that, or what TSA puts on your baggage now to secure it. And it is not reusable, as far as I know. I've never seen one. And so how they do that, I just can't say. The seals do not come back to the GPF. Because when that box is torn open, however it's torn open, those seals should be ruptured and therefore not usable as a practical matter. That's what has come to me. It does not come back to the GTV. They've never, during my time, 2017 March, February 29th, 2020, boxes and seals did not come back to the GTV. So, what did they do with them? Did they even need them did they create new seals? Did they duplicate these seals? Did they duplicate the documents and just fix the dates? I can't say that. The US indictment would have the meat that supports it.
And sir, could you say what reconciliation was done between the gold that was declared to the Gold Board and the number of gold operations and production figures coming to the GHK?
Well, there's a process here. And that was one of the things that led us constant headbutting with the dealer community, with the overall gold community, including the non-exporting community. I go there, and I ran in, as I said on another program, to the RCM, Royal Canadian Mints, embargo on Guyana because of the Rasul developments. That was a major blow for Guyana. I had to get that lifted up, and with the help of the general manager, who was brand new to that role, and the minister, we got that embargo lifted within about a week and a half, I think, 2 weeks. One of the conditions of that, why I mentioned that, was that we had to have a significantly robust risk, enhanced due diligence, enhanced risk procedures in place. I'm walking into this, right? So we anti-money laundering, scrutiny, mine to market, or else the gold does not pass. So when we introduce something like you've got to have an ID card, you've got to have an address, and you're going to have a bank account, all hell broke loose. And most of it fell on my head and the general manager's head. Because this was not the way that the business was done. So you've got to fill out, as somebody declaring to the Gold Board by law, 1,000 ounces of gold. You're a licensed dealer. You are a gold operator. So you present a document and you have Dennis Stabroek, 10 ounces and the details related to you. And you go down that line and we have to reconcile that with what you, is this person part of the gold community? That document, those documents also, the declarations from the miners, which we have a tremendous amount of difficulty to get, but we got them, or else you're not going in here. Or else you are not going in here. We'll keep it going until you get this. And so those documents were shared with other government agencies from time to time, including the FIU as requested. So there is some cross checks going on. We have some register was built, the process of being expanded by the time I left in 2020, for closer collaboration with the GHK, where the mining officer for that area had to sign off on goal 1, which is another way of saying goal 4, had to sign off on that. So when those come to us, we are ready to take the process to the next step.
If indeed you heard assumptions or perhaps expressions that there were in the instances of gold smuggling, why did the board take the decision at this decision-making forum to call in the police rather than interface with the political directorate?
Well, let me correct you there, Mr. Shaw. Conversations were had with the people above me, and they with me without me asking. But there were also engagements. I remember an incident happening at the Ogle Airport, involving a bar of gold. There's this long document, about 2-3 pages. One was 11.5 by 17 documents, where there was this convulsion, not so much confusion, of this bar of gold, where the Guyana Revenue Authority and the Guyana Police Force, officials on the ground, were arguing who's in charge here, and what can pass and what cannot be inspected. It was in a 3-page post-capsized document. So what I'm saying here is that there were discussions at different levels. There was one discussion involving me, close to my Russia, and where gold smuggling came out, but gold coming in as opposed to gold going out. Right? So we never nailed that down. And they were, the Guyana board was saying, we are hearing these matters coming up. We are hearing and we believe that there's a leverage. And there was intelligence ops being conducted, which is unknown to me, but there were those going on. How many of them? Who was spearheading them? I don't know. But gold smuggling was never not part of the conversation. Did it happen all the time? No. But we're saying, look, why are our declarations like this? Where is the gold going? Is it Suriname? Is it US? And who is involved here? Is it the same people that we are partnering with? Now they're hearing about customs officers and government officials in the indictments and sanctions. Who are they? Is that me? Is that a political figures? How many public servants here? How many public? This thing could not have happened on an island involving people with limited reach. You have to have some very, very important people here.
But what I'm trying to get from Mr. Dan is whether there was, why was there a formal request by the board for the police to investigate?
Investigation of what? A rumor?
Well, why not? An assumption.
No.
Are you saying there was insufficient evidence? That's what you're saying?
Sorry?
Are you saying that there was insufficient evidence?
But as I said about 2 or 3 times here, you're hearing rumors. You go in the yard, that man was smuggled away, I'm sorry, those fellas. Who are fellas? No, I don't want to say. They're big people. So you are left hanging in the air. You know of people who are working, who like to favor one exporter over another, and you say to yourself, what is happening here? How far? Oh, and by the way, you gotta know this. The exporters and the gold community know the Gold Board Act more than ourselves. They will be the first to tell you to actually receive attorney's letters saying, you got no jurisdiction to go where you are going. Did we have conversations about that? I would say yes. Did it come up in other conversations? Yes. Did it come up with me and the minister? Yes. The minister and me? Yes. Did it come up in the board meetings? Yes. Did it come up with GPMC and ourselves? Yes. Did the police, I would say, have some sort of in-depth awareness of this? They certainly would have more media and with who the major players, contributors were.
Did these intelligence reports mention any names?
You have seen them?
You never asked them?
No, I didn't.
Why?
Because I didn't feel it would be released to me. I feel it would be dealt with, but I don't think it would be released to me. I didn't even know that I had the right to answer that.
But you wanted to get on to what he was going to say.
How do you think that I came about the intelligence about the operation?
You would never get it.
It came to the minister, and not at the beginning, it came to even the minister of
The minister engaged.
And when one more tell us, it goes to the president. Those were way outside of my area. The details of that has never been seen up to my side by anyone of the government, including myself.
Last question, Mr. Lall.
Go ahead.
You said you were interfacing with officials of the U.S. Embassy. Did they share any information with you about alleged gold smugglers in Guyana?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, they brought out a file twice the size of this. It had about 40 names and pictures inside, most of them. I didn't recognize any of those people. Gold smuggling, drug smuggling, different anti-money laundering. They had about 40 names and pictures in there of Guyanese. But I didn't recognize them. Remember, I moved to this place at the time. So I didn't recognize any of them. Did they have their ideas about the gold community in this country? I would say yes, but they were the U.S. Embassy was very guarded because they didn't know what they had in need. I think they were taking a chance with me to share with the U.S. citizen. And so that was the limit of what they shared with me. At no time did I hear that Mr. A, Mr. B, Miss C is definitely a suspect in gold smuggling. We hear gold board outside of the gold board. The gold smuggling is going on. And I don't think it started in 2017. I think it started even before the gold board came into existence. And I'd be surprised if it's not going on right now. It's an illegal operation, and we know what we have here for blanket coverage and corruption. And so it's a prime environment for this stuff. You've got so many people involved in this. You've got gold, buyer, you've got the GGFC, the interior, you've got the police, you've got the GRA, you've got council, you've got politicians. So I mean, that's the reality of not just gold smuggling, but what is, shall I say, the norm in this country. And gold smuggling happens to come out now. And look when it comes out. When politics, apparently, is part of the catalyst. We never heard, when I talked about gold smuggling in May 2021, I wrote about it in Stabroek News. I don't think I went to you. May 2021. It was shut down. I mean, Stabroek put it out there. It's like, well, we don't know about that. And so on from the hierarchy of the government. But we didn't know about gold coming in here. And gold, we didn't go further than that. But gold smuggling is a two-way street. There's something coming here and gold are now. Cheaper royalty. This thing is a maze that involves powerful people in this country. And I don't think that any one party has a monopoly on it. Saying monopoly doesn't say it. And I'm not saying certain things right now. So I want that to be understood. You do not have these types of players as alleged involved in gold smuggling, tax evasion, money laundering. And look at the Lamborghini case, folks. That's a fact. That's not a speculation or a rumor. Taxes evaded as alleged, and people involved as alleged. And who will not recognize a Lamborghini and that on the road, and that still happened? So you're talking about a secret operation gold smuggling. I mean, what are the probabilities of many people involved there?
So, Mr. Lall, were the Mohamads mentioned among the list of names provided by the embassy?
Were the Mohammeds what?
Mentioned among the list of names?
Mentioned?
In the list of names provided by the embassy?
No, as I said before, of the 40 names, faces, there were photographs attached. I didn't recognize anybody. That means obviously the Mohammeds were not there. Or anyone in our whole community, the major players.
But even so, what did you do with the information? Did it continue to form the basis for you to request an investigation by the police force?
I shared that information with the minister, who had some of it, and so it went from there. I think that was not my place. I don't think that was my place.
Why?
That information was shared with me from one government, one country in which I'm a citizen, and in confidence. It wasn't that I go in there and come out on top or with the engagement.
Mr. Lall, allow me to follow up there. You keep stressing within this entire press conference that you've heard rumors about gold smuggling, and much of the discussion was in an informal setting, whether with the minister or the president at the time. Why was such a serious issue not documented or recorded officially? And coming back to you saying that you mentioned this to the minister, the lack of official documentation, was it a personal decision or was this a directive from higher authorities?
Fair question, I think it's a fair question. That gold smuggling was meant by me that it is happening. I encountered people who said gold smuggling is happening. And what else can you say? What else can you say? There are only so many times you can document rumors, speculation, from whatever basis, with no names called, no other pieces of evidence substantiating that. And the minister shared that with me and I shared it with him, and there was some overlap, but I guess what you're looking for, or the public will want to hear, is who John Doe, Mary Doe, name was called. Nobody is that foolish in this country to go and say that Mr. X or Miss Y, well, because it's a small country, and as you should know, this is a country that lives on rumors and things like that. And they also know that walls have ears. So they're not going to take that risk of sharing what they may know firsthand with somebody, a stranger like me. But we hear that and we say, well, you know, these things are happening, we are doing what you've done on them. Say, well, look, we have our role to play, we are escalating these things, we are making sure that there is awareness. And as I said earlier to you, I would be surprised because it was smuggling came up, that it does not feature at all in the minutes of our meetings. I hope that helps you to something a little better. We have been at it for about an hour. If there are any other questions, yes, sir.
Mr. Lall, Joshua Mansai, Catholic Standard. In your letter, you mentioned.
Hello?
Seems not working, but I guess you can hear me.
Yes.
In your letter, you mentioned that you are a Eucharistic minister.
Yeah.
How does your faith influence the way you approach your professional and public life?
Good Lord, Mr. Mansfield, I'm glad the Catholic Standard is here in official capacity. I don't know how some pastors and pundits and movies live themselves in this country. Not all of them, and some of them, too many of them. They found holding what is considered in the Catholic tradition and belief system, the body of Christ. I've got to be one hell of a big criminal to be engaging in smuggling, to be partnering with people, anybody, in a big crime or a little crime. Now let's get things straight. I know saint. As the man said, sit down. I would agree to that. I've got my share of flaws. But here's the story. Not one of those allegations have been met. You don't fear lies. You don't fear distortion, Mr. Mansfield. As a Eucharistic minister, the man who stands here, as you know, on the altar, what I consider sacred space, in the space of God, and tell the people that they must be walking along the straight path, the narrow path, and the truth, and live the way, truth, and life of Jesus. I gotta be an imposter, the biggest one of all time. Because here it is, that now gold smuggling is affixed to my name. And certainly it is beyond being reprehensible. It is an indication, it's a confirmation of how people at very, very senior levels in this country are so twisted, are so fearful, that when one man tries to walk a straight line, they find ways. It just can't be. It just can't be, or we've got to bring it down, however we've got to do that. Imagine the disgrace is tied to the Roman Catholic Church in this country, holding the role that I do, not only as a Eucharistic minister, but as the leader of the Eucharistic Ministers Group, which has some people who are very close to this government. To be the leader of the Eucharistic Ministers Group at the Breakdown Cathedral, and to be a gold smuggler, or any one of those other things that I've been accused of. Of course, on social media and under the cover, the camouflage of anonymity. That's why I say, Mr. Mansfield, and I can say to everybody here, everybody watching, everybody viewing, I want an investigation more than the government. I want an investigation more than the president and the vice president. And I want also, and I insist on not just such an investigation, but I insist on the FBI being here. That's not what we do. We've had witch hunts. Now we have fishing expeditions, mining. What do we have now? Hunting party? I mean, there is a continuum here, folks. There is a continuum here. Get Lall and get him out of the picture. There's character assassination, we've seen that. I mean, there's proof of that. What kind of other assassination may be mine? I know that makes you uncomfortable, Mr. Buck, so I do that, I'm not putting it on record. I'm open to any more questions. And by the way, any leader in this country wants to sit down and have a one-on-one debate with me about gold smuggling, I, GHK Lall, am ready. Let that word ring forward. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have no more questions, I shall take my leave, and I thank you for